Hey everybody, content warning on this episode before we get started. We got pretty close to the edge with the Sweat and Soap episode, and this goes further into kink sex territory. We're like dangling a toe over hentai with this one, I feel like. So if this kind of topic before or now makes you uncomfortable, which is incredibly valid, maybe skip this one. This is also a series showing high school students in sexual situations. I'm pretty sure we've had this chat before, but just be aware. We're going to try to skate over it because otherwise we're just going to get... There's not a conversation to be had, but we're getting there. So I would guess also, side note, if you know me personally and don't want to know certain things about me that are related to these topics, maybe skip this one. It's going to come out. So with that out of the way...
If you know me, I don't care.
Brad doesn't care. Let's start the episode. Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun, the show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, get the rope. It's Nana and Kaoru. Welcome, everybody, to a very interesting episode of Shonen Jumping the Gun. I am your resplendent, rapid-fire rope bunny, Kermit the Grog, here with our resident Dommy Daddy. There's a comma in between. He is both a dad and dominant. Maybe not both of those things at the same time. Isekai Sensei Sama Brad. Brad, how are you doing for this very special episode?
Hold on. Where's my whip? Here we go.
So, yeah, you already heard the content warning. We're covering Nana and Kaoru, I believe is how it's said. I don't really know. The name is very unassuming. If we haven't made it clear already, this is a BDSM manga.
You get a bit of an idea from the cover.
Yeah.
But you definitely get an idea in the first, 3 pages.
The spread. Literally the spread to an extent. Like I already said, I think this is us dipping a toe directly above Hentai Lake, a lake that I do not intend to get into for this podcast series. No. I do not want to do that.
And I will, this is firmly not hentai, because if it was a hentai, there would have been something in the first chapter.
Okay.
It was oh, yeah.
Okay. But I would say
wasn't.
This is the sauciest thing we've ever read.
Yeah.
And that will probably be true for a long, long time, barring something specific happening.
This is, I believe they say, erotica.
I would agree with that.
So it's don't read it in public.
Yeah, I would not read it in public. I was very surprised when I got to that opening thing getting through the chapter. I was like, oh, okay, okay, sure. Before I get to our summary information, this started in October of 2008 and then finished 8 years later in August 2016. But they're also apparently spin-off series, and maybe some of those spin-offs are sequels. Big shrug for me. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to spoil myself on things more than the first chapter.
The real question is, which one of those spin-offs is the hentai?
I'm sure one of them is. Because one of them said, it folls up with them later while they're going into whatever. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I'll check later when I get home.
Yeah. Now that we have done the episode. Starting the speedrun summary.
Well, actually, no. We're gonna hold off just a second. This is actually future Brad here with future Kermit.
Future past Kermit.
We after we recorded this episode, we found out that the translation that we were reading, not so great. It wasn't bad enough to materially change anything that we talked about. However, Kermit did want to take another crack at the summary. So instead of the original one, you're going to get this one.
Here is this from the actual physical book that I bought to read in my home. So yes. To give you a better heads up where we're going with this first chapter is called Fantasy in the official release, but Leather Dreams in the scanlation, and shows our high school girl lead straddling a railing while the high school boy lead looks from the background. We open on a scene of BDSM between our two leads. It's a very erotic level endeavor, done generally tastefully that I'm not going to get into the details of because this isn't that kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Our male lead, Kaoru, awakes. This was a wonderful dream. He's 17 and a, I quote, big ol' virgin, and obsessed with S&M stuff. He just bought a new outfit that no one will wear. His mom barges in, aware of it but annoyed. And then our female lead, Nana, who says Kaoru has makeup classes he needs to hurry up to. The two walk to school. They live next door and both come from single mom households. Their moms befriended each other, and they've been stuck together ever since first grade. They chat as we get inner narration from Kaoru about Nana as it slowly overlaps with his dream until they reach the school. Nana chats with her Class A friends, but Kaoru feels unwelcome here, as he is Class F, as we later learn. But more than anything, Nana calls out his attitude for why people call him Creepy Mura. Kaoru then finds his fellow pervy idiots in Class F. They complain about makeup classes, trade porn DVDs, and then they talk about Nana in very frank BDSM-y terms, as Kaoru steams sadly about how they are morons. Cut to Nana, and she's talking to the guidance counselor. Her grades have improved recently. They're great. And the counselor says how hard she works, but maybe she has to lower her standards for school choices, which Nana doesn't want to do as those schools don't have a law program, which is what she's aiming for. She'll just work harder, but the counselor's against this. She's already working hard, and more could make it worse. The counselor suggests a hobby to help her de-stress, relax, and empty her mind, but she doesn't have any. Nana runs into Kaoru's mom on the way home. She hands Nana a big bag of all of Kaoru's kink stuff to hide at her place to teach Kaoru a lesson. Nana thinks of her girl pals talking about their loves and how motivating it is to have a lover, and thinks about her own feelings for Kaoru. She used to be able to hang out and relax with Kaoru, but things are different now. We cut to Kaoru, freaking out that all of his S&M stuff is missing, except a key. And then cut back to Nana, looking at the leather outfit from the start. We cut back and forth between the two, putting things together about all this. Nana considers putting the dress on, as it appears it would fit, but, never, couldn't do that. But maybe. Finally, we get a sexy spread of her wearing the outfit. She kind of likes it at first, like Kaoru's giving her a big hug, but then is embarrassed by it and freaks out, seesawing between these two feelings. I get it. She handles the lock on the outfit. If it closes, I'm stuck in this, she thinks. The thought scares and excites her as she plays with the lock. But then, no, she doesn't want to lock it. Oh no, she accidentally locked it. Cut to Kaoru's front door as Nana is there in a big coat hiding herself, and the chapter ends. Woo, it's getting a little steamy in here. And that is it. Admittedly, not that much different from our original one, but part of this was just wanting to make a point about there being an official translation and it being leagues better, because here as future past Kermit reading chapter 2 of the Scanlations and being just confused multiple times what was going on, but wanting to read this and shelling out money to buy a book of it, which had a much better translation. So if you can get your hands on the official translation, I don't know if there's digital versions of it somewhere, if it's quote-unquote manga streaming anywhere, but I would highly recommend it. And with that, let us throw to our past selves. So, see you over there. It's 31 pages. Could I have pulled another chapter into this and still felt like chapter 1? Yes. Will I? No. It is short enough that I thought of another one, but I was just like, we've titillated enough. I think we're okay with just one.
Oh, you will understand plenty from the first chapter.
Yes, I think it tells you what it's about.
Yeah.
Not entirely, but I did not read the next couple of chapters, but I glossed them to get a vibe of it, because we didn't get to the lodestone that I needed, LODE, to orient off.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean. Maybe you don't. I should probably explain myself better. We're on a podcast where I have to be understood. I don't know. I can get a little sense of the vibe, but I don't know if this manga is on the level, I guess, if that makes sense.
I will say the way this was recommended to us is doing a lot of work for me.
Okay. Wait, I'm confused.
Maxie recommended this.
Yes.
Which means
it implies a certain level of quality.
Right. I'm not if this was just a random thing that I stumbled upon and decided to read the first chapter, I mean, let's be fair. I would have kept reading it, but
yes, it's not a very high mark
from the first
note.
chapter. I would have made certain guesses about it that I'm not going to because of how it was recommended.
Okay, That makes sense.
So
I guess that's in the back of my head a little bit.
It's sort of a spoiler for myself.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I mean, this is very lewd. So
it is, but the thing that, okay, I guess what? I enjoyed it. It made me, I wanted to keep going, but I stopped myself outside of just like trying to get a vibe check on the next one. But I'm like, I'm not going to read them. I'm going to do the episode and then I can read them. Is that, hi, speaking from admittedly beginner kink BDSM things, I am vaguely knowledgeable and wanted to share that in this situation of like the power dynamic is important, but also there's like a lot of like consent and safety and respect and stuff like that. Like playing with that where it's not just like the fucking 50 Shades of Grey, just like power dynamic fantasy where it's like this doesn't work. And it's like if this can be still kind of the sexual fantasy thing, but also kind of dabble in the actual like emotions and understanding of things and be quote unquote responsible about it.
Yeah.
I'd really like that. I got a vague sense of that, of them like understanding the push and pull of it by just buzzing over the next 2 chapters. But I don't know that. And that's kind of where like I'm at right now, where it's like I'm interested, but I could also see this turning bad, but I don't know that yet. I'm currently going to trust the author can balance that.
Yeah. I mean, I also enjoyed this, not from a literary perspective, but the whole like teenagers being awkward around each other because they like each other and that kind of thing. I like that kind of stuff. This is definitely much more explicit than everything else that I read in terms of those kind of things.
It's a lot spicier, yes.
And I think the primary problem I have with it, and I say that, and I'll preface that with, I'm going to keep reading it. But the primary issue I have with this is that the premise of virginal teenagers being into BDSM is a bit of a stretch to me.
I mean, yes.
Now, if they had established the like, oh, you know, they're not virgins anymore, they've had boyfriends and girlfriends and they've just never connected with them really, and like all that kind of stuff, and then it got to this point, but they very explicitly said Kaoru's a virgin, which I'm going to assume that Nana is as well.
Yeah.
And BDSM is not really the kind of thing that you start with, you know?
I mean, that's where I don't know. Like, I thought about that for a moment, and then I just never thought about that again. I thought about the dynamic. Like, these are essentially adults. Exist, like they're going to be able, by virtue of being written by an adult, who hopefully knows what they're talking about, they will be guided along these scenes. My hope is they're guided along these scenes with the hand of a knowledge base.
Yeah.
And not just an outside, like, again, I go back to my 50 Shades of Grey, just like, this is a dumb sub-relationship, but also, like, not how it actually happens at all.
Right. And that's, like, I mean, that's just a thought that was in my mind that was just sort of creeping in there going, this is sort of weird, but, like, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The premise is still somewhat interesting. It's very saucy, which is something I do enjoy. Just generally not in the normal stuff that I read. That's sort of like a separate kind of reading situation that I am in.
Not normal for this.
And not like that. There's a bunch of Otome Isekai stuff that I read that skirts those lines from time to time. So that's more what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, just overall, I thought the fact that they needed to be 17 years old was just a little bit.
Isn't that technically the age of consent in Japan?
I'm not saying
16, that. Like, that's
actually,
why it's like when we had the talk at the beginning, I'm just going to wave my hands. We've had this conversation before. Like, I'm here for other things, and I'm sticking my head in the sand.
And that's what it is.
I will fully admit that.
You just go, okay, I've confronted this in my mind. Now I'm just going to move on.
Yeah. I'm choosing to believe the author does not want to have sex with teenagers. It just happens to be the crowd that is being sold to of horny teenagers.
Yeah.
And by virtue of that, I'm choosing to do that. Whether I'm right about it or not, I don't know. And that's not the thing I want to think about when I move forward on this. I have other things I'm curious and worried about, and that's not the thing.
Yeah. I don't know if we've talked about this on a main episode before or not. I think people being attracted to teenagers isn't necessarily bad, but obviously,
it's complicated.
Yeah,
it's complicated.
All that kind of stuff.
Let's float over it. I don't want to. That's not what I wanted this episode to be.
And unfortunately, you get into these situations where you just have to be like, "Yep, just gonna ignore that and move on, and just enjoy this as a piece of content that exists. It's not real."
Yep.
So, don't touch teenagers, but
correct.
So yeah, I mean, there's not a ton going on in this chapter anyway.
The thing that really got me to go like, this is where it's like, I want to see if this plays out like I think, or if it will play out more straightforwardly for like the fantasy of it. But it's like, I like that she kind of falls into it of like, I need a thing to de-stress, and like genuinely kink BDSM stuff can be a de-stressor. I speak from experience that there's just something like, there's just like something about like, it's that thing of like giving up control and power in a situation. If you're usually somebody who does that, can be very freeing. And like, I like that she has the back and forth of it. It's not just an instant like, oh, I tried it on and I love it. It's like, it's that bouncing back and forth. It's that, that thing. And that was what gave me like, I liked that I got to see her side of things. And it's like, okay, this is the track that I'm on. I understand this. I have felt these things, and I'm excited to see how this dynamic between the two of them plays out, and how much it will be a dynamic, and how much of this will be like, what's the balance between like, we're telling an emotional story of a power dynamic, and how much of this is like a male sexual fantasy.
Yeah.
And I've gotten enough that I'm not out of the woods yet that it's not just that, but also like there's stuff that I saw that gave me hope that they will actually explore it in an interesting way from chapter 1. And then what I like looked ahead of them dealing with a situation of like, she's locked in the thing and he has the key, and how that can play out. And I'm hoping I guess just to vaguely skip ahead to like buy it or not, like I don't know if I'd physically buy this book to have in my home that people could find, but I would keep going. I was very curious about it.
Top shelf.
Yeah, how with some other things.
Do you think the mom knew what she was doing?
Yes. I think the mom knew the stuff.
There was a look on her face.
I think because she's a single parent, and she's just like, I'm too fucking, like, I got a big vibe of like, I love my son, but I'm also too fucking like tired to deal with this. Like, just get this away from my little pervert son.
Well, that's what I was.
The energy that I got.
There was two ways that I thought it could be going. On the one hand, she could just be like, oh, they've been friends forever.
You think she tried to get her into it?
No, I think there's legitimate, just the look that she was drawn with when she was handing it over. I was like, is she trying to make something happen here?
Okay, that's not what I got. It was just like, I'm handing you erotic, illicit stuff. Don't let anybody see this. This is an odd transfer, but I'd have to look at it again to be sure. Okay, let's see. Where do we think this goes?
Oh my God.
I don't think this is going to follow the normal rom-com path. I do think to an extent this is a rom-com because it set up a romantic thing and there was comedy.
Yeah.
There was funny bits.
The only thing I can think of is like, when do they actually do it? Like how
what's important.
I know it's not,
you're
but
so vanilla and lame, Brad.
Like, but that's like because how long does it take?
No, it's boring. It's a boring question. It's a boring vanilla question. I'm sorry. That's not why I'm here.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'll take myself off of my little soapbox here. I'll get back down.
Because I mean, I don't know what else happens here. because this is so far beyond the normal rom-com, like, will they, won't they, or they've got together and they're
know
dating.
the space that well. Like, he knows it, but he hasn't experienced it, so I have a feeling it's going to be set in that. I'm sure at some point, like, this, it's the thing of, like, to your earlier point of, like, they are teenagers, it's like, it's not, there's, like, I feel like you need another character who, like, knows more about this. It's like a mentor character, but to have an adult show up and be a mentor for this is, like, I can float over that if I have to, if they, like, handle it right, but it's just, like, I feel like you do need a mentor character, and they're not just going to do it on their own, but, like, also, who would it be and how would that work without it being the most icky thing ever? So it's, like, I'm curious. I'm just curious how they're going to balance it.
Because he's just an armchair expert at this point, right? It's like, oh, I researched all the literature. It's like, yeah, but you have no experience.
When rubber meets road is when things are actually, like, figured out, you know? And there's certain... As somebody who has found, personally speaking, it's like, you can think about how you'll feel in the situation, but then when you're in the middle of it, you know, at least in my situation, like, my brain does different things. That was unexpected, but still pleasant. But yeah, I just, like, I assume they're going to continue, like, I don't know how much, this is just my hopefulness that this is just going to be like a, what were they called? We'd call them craft manga then.
What?
Like a Kanai Banashe is a craft manga.
Oh. Yeah.
Like, is this going to be like these characters have their thing, we have funny moments, and we learn about like BDSM stuff and rope, like, I mean, maybe that's because I want that, but, like, I kind of hope it's that to an extent. Of, like,
I hadn't even considered that.
We're going to use these characters and their situations to, like, because he's always wanted to do it, to, like, try certain things and look at certain dynamics. Like, I think that would be cool. This is me coming in with maybe, like, too much outside stuff of what I want it to be, and because I've never consumed anything like this, I don't know what it's going to be. So that's my hopeful thought of either both what I think will happen and what I want to be in it is, like, a learning thing and not to just be, like, 100% like sexy erotica.
Right. That's, I hadn't even considered that. I mean, I got nothing else, so let's do that.
It's fun because normally with these, you're just like, I've read a billion of these, I know exactly what's going to happen. So it's like, it's fun seeing you just be like, my sensors don't work here. I have no data of which to scry from. So, and I guess to a similar extent, me too.
Error, insufficient data.
Yeah. Error macro. It's Ermac. Let's see. What do I want more of? Like, I feel like it's like, that's my thing I come back to is, like, I feel like more characters have to show up and get involved, but I don't know how in a way that just doesn't instantly make everything just become, like, I just have to completely disconnect my brain. Right. So, like,
I don't have a good vision of where this should go because this first chapter just reads so much like the beginning of a hentai to me.
Because the next two chapters, I guess, small spoiler for me going, like, is the scene of them in the room playing out in whatever way it does. I don't think I saw the ending of it then, but
so,
like,
I mean, like, I can't go, okay, this being a normal, you know, rom-com, well, normal, but like not a hentai, like, it would do this, that, and that.
You're in the
like,
between of two of them, and that means, like, neither of them, it doesn't match a rom-com, but it's not quite a hentai either,
right.
So it's just in this weird middle zone, no man's land trench that you're just like, I don't know. I said what I wanted more of. What would be something I wouldn't want to show up or I want less of? Oh, what? My main gripe is they are teenagers, and I just have to float over it. I just have to float. And
that's an unfortunate part of, like, most saucy Japanese media. Yeah. They're very obsessed with youth.
They are like too obsessed with youth, which is why a lot of the time we are on, like, danger, you know. Yeah. PDF file watch.
And I mean, like I said, I don't judge anybody who's attracted to teenagers because, like, they've gone through puberty. That's the whole point of that. But yeah, when you it can definitely go too far.
Are you emotionally ready? And I would say in actual land, 17-year-olds are not emotionally ready to practice.
Well, yeah, I mean,
BDSM.
I was thinking earlier, like, I'd actually draw the line at, like, 25 because, like,
wow, okay,
yeah, you know, your brain isn't done baking until then.
True. So, I could see that,
and it's not a hard and fast rule like that, but, like, generally speaking, People aren't fully fledged adults until they're into their mid-20s. So everything that happens before that is sort of a toss-up.
You got to be more emotionally baked to wait and, and admittedly, of my own experience, everybody's super cool and understanding for the most part. But
just because your body is ready at, 15, 16 or whatever.
I mean, that's never been why the age of consent has always been more emotional so. But yeah. I guess how do you feel about this, Brad? I know you said you'd keep reading it.
I'm going to keep reading it. This is definitely one where I might fall off pretty quick because if there isn't a story hook to keep me here, I'm not interested in reading more porn. Like, I can get actual porn elsewhere, so I don't need to read a story that is almost porn. But if it continues to be interesting and funny, like there was enough in the first chapter that I'm interested in seeing more.
It showed storytelling chops.
Yeah.
And it's comedy and other setups and stuff.
So we'll see.
I would say good to great on a knife's edge that could easily from like it's so much of it is based on its vibe and being able to handle these emotionally fraught situations and the power dynamic moving forward. That's kind of what it comes down to. If it can nail it properly and have it's like, hey, they're both figuring it out, not just like the boy is instantly domineering and the girl just submits and we're done and we just kind of do that. And I didn't get that vibe from what I had paged over. So that gives me hope that it's going to be like everybody's going to have to figure this out because it's not easy.
Yeah. I had just had a thought. What if this is all an elaborate prank from Maxie and it is actually hentai? We get like 5 chapters in and he's like, I recommended hentai for you and you did a whole episode on it. This is the part where when I'm editing this episode, I will cut in and let you know if it is or in fact hentai.
You're going to ask them directly I don't think they were fooling.
Yeah. And here's the interjection. So Nana and Kaoru is not a hentai. I did check, but I will give you a quick warning that the scanlation version, which we can't recommend, does include some pornographic content that the scanlators included. So be warned.
They were very clear about what this was when they said it in the chat, so
I don't remember what was said.
We'll have to go back then because I know I went back to find another series they had recommended.
I'm just going to read it and then I'll know.
Yeah.
If I get to the end of the first volume and there's nothing like actually in there, then I'll be like, okay, we're good.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see. I think it'll dance on the line. That's another thing that's rough. Like we don't get it. We get it a little. Actually, no, we have run into a little bit. And oddly enough, in a lot of Jump series, where the first chapter is like we have to be saucy to grab eyeballs.
Yeah, that does happen.
That's happened. It's like how a lot of adult cartoons that come out, the first episode is always the most like sweary, bloody, generally, in my opinion, childish episode, and then like after a while they like, I mean, they keep their same rating, but they like become mature because it's like they don't have to grab the regulars,
right?
And they've like figured out what their voice is that isn't just sort of shouting and cursing. So, but yes, this has been Nana and Kaoru, like continually such an unassuming name for what it is about.
Yeah,
because it's like, and also because they have cute sounding names.
There's an ongoing thing with these series where it's just like Skip and Loafer, Sweat and Soap.
Well, this one even goes out further because it's just like these are their names. There's nothing. I mean, maybe they mean things in Japanese that would give it more of like a sense of what it was, like rope and knot or something. But we'll see. I don't even know if they get into rope stuff. I'm assuming they do. That's a big part of it.
I don't
That's
know how
the
you wouldn't.
Particular branch you go down.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we'll see.
And with that, Brad, we're at the end of the episode, which means it's time for you to hit me with them plugs.
Well, as always, there would be a short ad spot here. I'm not going to say it explicitly because this episode is a little explicit. So
already a little explicit already. So
you all know what it is. I don't need to say it.
You already know what it is.
Plus the links are down there, so you can find it. But you should let us know what you think. So find our social media links on animepodcasterreincarnation.com. And from there, you can contact us. You can even just leave a comment on this episode post. But also, you can come chat on the Discord. I'm sure the conversation when this episode comes out is going to be interesting. And, of course, we also have our Patreon. Our patrons get perks like getting to vote on which series we cover on heroin addiction, which we haven't really covered anything explicit like this on heroin addiction yet, funny enough.
Probably for the best. I don't know how Ben would feel about that.
We also have bonus episodes for our patrons, and our patrons get the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And we want to shout out our patrons. First and foremost, at our noble tier, we have our marquee, Sir Cake Dwarf. At our reincarnator tier, we've got Moon, and at our commoner tier, we've got Rena and Killhour. So thank you so much to all our patrons who let us bring you weird content like this.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you once again for listening. Make sure you listen to all the series on our feed, and Brad, get my rope. But in this moment, she checks the bag.
Yeah, something you gloss over a little bit. The mom hands her a closed bag, and she doesn't look inside before she takes it inside.
My brain remembered it as like a big brown bag with a top open.
Right,
maybe I'm misremembering.
No, and yeah, that's exactly what it was. But like, she very explicitly didn't look at what it was before she took it inside.
I think she would know if they've been friends for a long time and if his mom knows about it.
I don't think she knew.
True. Sometimes it's like knowing and seeing are kind of two different... I don't know. Let me finish the thing. We can get into it then.
I can't believe...
What?
What do you remember what Maxie said?
I'd have to look it up to remember.
Because I knew it was like from the picture.
I think they made a point that it was... Do you want me... I'll just fudge and get the line.
But then when the first 3 pages of Splash... Where it was
I know, that was that was way gratuitous. I was like, oh my god.
Wait a minute. Am I reading the right thing?
Yeah, I had that feeling a little bit. Fair point, you should all read the Shonen series Nana and Kaoru. It'll make you believe in the slow burn romantic bonds that can only be achieved through sensual bondage. And then on the less lewd and Sweat and Soap, which is just the most pleasant and real romance series has ever felt to me.
Those were recommended together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was one and then it was a stepping down in intensity. I do appreciate that he did say Senin. Kiyoshi continues to fucking do it.
Yeah.
I love how clearly they're like, his home life is actually really pleasant and everybody's really, not even everybody's really nice to him, but everybody genuinely cares about him and is trying to do the best for him. He's trying to be an edgelord and it's like, this is so good.
And the fact that they can do something that fun and funny that isn't Kiyoshi himself.
Yeah.
Is I think this mangaka knows what they're doing.
I think more than any other of the new series we have covered, it's the one I think I most want to see where it's going. Because I have fun in the middle of it, but I pouring out for Psych House. But Psych House, I was never where's Psych House going? I was just this Psych House is me chilling with some friends.
Yeah.
It didn't have aspirations, and that's fine.
And it shouldn't.
No.
Everybody who wanted it to do something was completely missing the point.
It was not what it was about, but it was because it was this really fun, little, cozy, pleasant, wholesome thing. But, Ultimate Kiyoshi is fun in the moment, but also I can tell, I can feel in my bones the author has gears spinning and moving things into place on the back end that I'm what are you up to? I'm so curious for things to pop off more.
He's going to make fundamental systematic changes. he has that power so that he can make changes. I imagine we're going to get more backstory with his mentor person who like got to this point,
There's all
and they're
these
going to be
spinning
like
plates that are like, I want to know what's going on there, and I think that's cool that he keeps positing new ideas, but in a way that it feels like it's like Jenga towering up instead of just throwing Lego bricks everywhere. Like, I think of everything we've covered, and I know there's ones that I've been like, I was sad that MMA died, and I'm sad Green Green Greens die, and there's other ones that I've been sad about, but I think this is the one, now that I'm more like not paying attention to where it sits in the magazine, that would like hurt me the most. Because I genuinely am like, this is something special. I get the sense of somebody who knows exactly, like I said, I get an expert feeling here. I love the art. I love the comedy. I like the action bits. I love the unfolding lore. I love how relatable and chill it is. Like, again, like that moment at the end where Kyoshi's like, oh man, somebody I know is at this party. Oh, and I'm like, yes, I felt that's like, there's so many bits where I see him freak, like, social anxiety characters normally, even if I suffer from that, I don't normally feel a kinship with them. But there's just something about Kyoshi, I'm like, I think it's because he's capable. I think that's why I resonate with him a lot, because he suffers from it, but he also seems fairly capable when he's got his head on. I'm like, I feel that. I feel that. Maybe that's too big-headed. I don't know. I just love getting my hands on like a not very good scanlation and then getting the proper thing. Like as a side-to-side instead of like the skip and loafer situation, or it was like, oh, here's a really good like fan translator, and then them dropping off, and the garbage and more garbage ones showing up, and me just losing interest because it just didn't.
I wouldn't say the scanlation of this was bad.
Chapter 1 was okay. Chapter 1 was solid. Like some of it was like I'm seeing more details that I didn't know I was missing. But chapter 2 was where I'm like multiple times like this. I can't, like this sentence doesn't work. Like this sentence doesn't fit together. On top of like that sixth sense I have of like, oh, you're like machine translating this. Like you didn't put the spice on. This is just, you just rehydrated the chicken, and it's not what it was. It's missing something. Or it's like there's certain like phrases and words that are used where it's like, oh, this is what the textbook says. So you always use the same word because there's no like there's no like detail or subtlety or the word I want that I can't figure it out. Like the nitty gritty of how we talk and what words mean. So